Out of the studio. Get out of here. Guys, just playing Dom Perignon. It's supposed to bubble, kind of like Bitcoin is supposed to bubble, right? Hopefully we see it bubble again. It's kind of been an insider joke around here. How's everybody doing today? We got Facebook Live, we're on YouTube Live. Vasily, Keith. Awesome, I think everybody's in here fired up. I'm going to zoom out just a bit. Nope, other way. Awesome. All right, so you got some interesting development. What's going on? WEDGE, Ben Cash, keep the music going, right? So it's just a little bit of Dom Perignon. It's supposed to bubble, like Bitcoin's supposed to bubble. Hopefully we see it do that here shortly as we're seeing this boom. I'm gonna make myself a little smaller. How's audio? Audio's good. Matt Long, what's going on? All right, guys, so I'm going to start diving into developments, what we've seen, things we've talked about recently, very recently, things we've had on watch, some plays we've made as far as BTC, short, long, margin trading and such, profitability. Esther, hello. All right, I'm glad everything's working really well. So, we did see this wedge, right? And I highlighted this wedge for a while. And I said we're going to stay away until we see this wedge develop and break and see what happens. This is one of the charts I had posted yesterday morning. It has not been altered. It hasn't done anything, or haven't done anything to it since, right? And I said there's going to be a patient zone, like, you know, the buy zone over here. This was the last order block that we're currently retesting. I do at some point expect a retest of the neckline. Not sure what happened to my neckline, which is going to be way up here, right? That's going to be like a 9400 resistance or so. As for now, current developments, we did break above the wedge. We retested the wedge on a shorter time frame, right? So we did have a break above, a retest, and a positive result. Now we're back into this buy zone, right? This buy zone of retesting the order block. Hopefully we shouldn't go through here. We shouldn't go through this bottom. We haven't gotten too close to it. I'm just going to get rid of some of these drawings so we can better see the candles, what's going on with the formations and such. We did see a nice rejection wick after this massive bearish engulfing candle essentially. Now we're seeing price consolidate. If you guys remember last wedge and the charts in my notes I've been posting about, it took the market 5 days to realize that we're going bullish after the break of the wedge and the retest of the wedge. So I expect a little bit of time to go through before we experience the upside and the volatility and the upside that I'm expecting from these recent developments. As for what happened yesterday, right? Yesterday morning, I got several pings saying, hey, you're seeing this bearish divergence at the 8,500 range. And I'm going to add some RSI to this chart. Let me see if it's on here already. It is. And let's go to a smaller time frame. I think it was very visible on a 30-minute. And upon the retest of the wedge and the break of the wedge, upon the break of the first wedge, if you are one of our VIPs, I even opened this up to premiums. We longed the first long in the 8,100 range, the break of the small wedge. We added on the break of the bigger wedge, right? I'm still in profits on my initial entry because I only doubled up. I didn't go any higher than double up. And yesterday, back to that divergence I was talking about, we saw these wicks, right? BTC essentially even make a higher high on a candle wax when RSI was making a lower high. And these are things that we like to watch out for when we're in these margin trades. And essentially what I said if you want to hedge your long, you want to hedge against your long without closing that June 29 future that's not accumulating any interest, right? The best thing to do is open a perpetual short. Some of the guys made 100% on that short, others made 124%. Goldilocks made 500%, and that's without closing a nice long that's going to be profitable. So that 5%, you know, at 25x, that's a really good gain. At 50x, it's a better gain. So hedging that short position for a close. I closed my short earlier today when we broke the smaller wedge, or it was, yeah. So as far as, you know, more divergences that we're seeing on a 30-minute chart, we do see a bullish div on a longer term. And even in the, well, yeah, on a longer term, we do see that bullish div. Actually, I wouldn't call that a bullish div, but I still think we're in a bullish setup. These falling wedges, when they break and they retest, we do see massive upwards volatility. And that's why I'm really excited about this formation, about where I think the market's headed, in a sense. So this would be the last wedge. And the last time we even signaled a wedge and played a wedge was the bottom at 6,700. And from there, it took the market days to realize what was going on before we got the Bitcoin gone halal moment. What's going on, Chris Taylor? So let's go back in time on that previous wedge. That is a very much of a similar setup to what we're playing currently, right? So we see this falling wedge develop. From there, we saw the wedge break upwards, retest the price action, retesting the wedge to find support for that Bitcoin gone halal candle. And as I said before, had Bitcoin gone halal or not, like if there was any kind of news or not, we had several bullish signals to re-enter the chart here on a long. And some of you guys were really hesitant this morning, and it was like almost capitulation in the chat room when I've been highlighting for the past few days that, guys, we need to expect these probes, the 6%, almost 7% candle down in 2 hours, right? That's going to be the shakeouts. For these big profitable moves, like this massive candle up here that set us up into a 50% uptrend over 26-day period, right? This was a 50% upswing over 26 days. There's going to be shakeouts. Institutions, the big boys, the market maker, they're not going to let the high leverage longs stay long over here. They want to liquidate everybody. We're going to expect downward moves before big upwards ones. Downwards move consolidation before big upwards ones. That's where patience comes into play. That's why I highlighted this. You know, there could be a 4 or 5 day wait period on this future before we're in massive profits. And I highlighted that a few days ago. And I'm going to go ahead and showcase that one more time. 4 days and 22 hours, almost 5 days since the break of the wedge before the market realized we went bullish. And as far as time frame, I don't expect it to be the same time frame to play out, but right now we're currently in that buy zone. We might get another test of this support, but you guys are asking me in the chat, hey, are we gonna retest this bottom? Are we gonna make a lower low? Well, one thing we do know is that support is formed where the price has picked up before. So before we push, we even think about coming into a new low, right? There's this level of support that's horizontal, sorry, it's diagonal, which is the green line, right? And below that, there's that horizontal support of the last bottom of 79.68. So there's quite a bit of support before we even think about making a new low. Now, is it possible? Sure, it is. But as far as bulls are very much likely to try to keep the price up above these support levels, or else, you know, they're failing at being bulls, failing at being good bulls. And if you look at some of these wicks where they're forming, like the bottom of this wick, it's right at the end of this order block, and it was nice price rejection. Now, if you wanted to do a fib from the last swing low to the last swing high, I'm just going to clear all drawings right now. All right, if we're gonna do a fib from the last swing low to last swing high, let's cover all our bases. We got that nice rejection off the 61.8. And that's a good level of support. That 81.84 looks like good support right now, based on order blocks, based on the previous bottom, and so forth. Now, because we are close to bottom, we might see a double bottom type of formation, which is going to go down to that 79.70. But I foresee that falling wedge breaking upward, setting us up into a new uptrend into June, further into June. Do you guys have any questions on BTC, on what I'm seeing, on some of the margin plays we've got? I'm going to highlight some of these margin plays real quick, some of the profits that you guys killed. You guys absolutely crushed it. You got Goldilocks, I don't know if you guys can see that, with a 527% gain. And then we got Cam B with 198 and a 105. That's on a hedge and on a long. So you guys did amazing. Good job on those. The link, Dingo Dimes, the link is always going to be in announcements, or you can just log on to our Facebook page and you could be able to join the live stream itself. Back to the neckline of that head and shoulders that I was talking about, which is where I got the original target of 7,900, 8,000 for the bottom. Esther, this is the neckline, right? This is gonna be our toughest overhead resistance. He's probably not watching. That's why he's asking for a link. All right, so I'm gonna move into global charts, see what market cap is doing, see what market dominance is doing, see what our alts are doing. I'm gonna zoom into the current period and just kind of get a glimpse of what is happening. This is total market capitalization. I thought it would be a little more aggressive going up, right? But then we're seeing BTC consolidate, go sideways a little. And which is good. We're going to see a shakeout. Weekends have to get shaken out of the market before the rally happens, or else it's too easy. And if it's too easy, and it's not a competitive market. So market cap goes, our previous all-time low this quarter, I guess past that 6,700 was at 361 billion. Today we're, I believe, at 370 billion. I'm not sure if we're gonna retest that same low, but once again, when BTC does get down there, we're gonna want to see that support come in and lift it back up, and that's how support and resistance is formed, is by retesting previous lows. So if we don't retest those lows, that's going to be really healthy. As for market cap without alts, it is mirroring BTC, almost the exact same image. So the sell-offs we're seeing, they're the entire market. Now, if you want to explain the sell-off, right, what happened coming out of the bear market? And back when BTC with that low, that 6,700, well, market cap was at an all-time low for the year, and we pulled up. We made some gains. We went from 253 all the way up to 467, right? That's almost like an 80% increase. And then we saw this pullback. Now, what do we know about pullbacks? They're caused by profit taking. Some market participants, institutions are probably saying, hey, we should lock in some of these profits. little FUD in the background doesn't always hurt for them, right? For profit takers, for shorts, for anybody leveraging positions on a fall. So essentially, we saw this round of profit taking, and it started at that 471 billion, and now we're back down into almost a 50% retracement, and BTC is really going to represent that. So looking back at the BTC USD chart, if we were to do a long-term fib from the last swing low to the last swing high, when we saw that bear div, we did see the proper pullback, right, which is going to be a 61.8. We broke above the 50% fib, and now we're at that fib level. So what that tells us is the bounce off of 61.8 institutions are still in, and I do foresee this thing to go up. I'm not going to give it quite a dollar target, but we know our next resistance is going to be up at that neckline. We do have some overhead fib resistance. The 50 has been good to us, right? We've had a lot of friction with it. I want to see price come up and close above it. As far as formations, you know, we see this big rejection wick far above the 61.8, so that is healthy. Last time we tested the 61.8, you still got rejected, but not as far up. As far as diagonal resistance or diagonal support goes, you know, we're looking good, right? We're peeling off. We're trying to keep that price further up, and what that's going to do is should accelerate the uptrend. Accelerated uptrend is indeed bullish. Now, had we had more friction and broke below, I would be worried. But once again, time and patience are going to be key into figuring out what happens in this market, in any market really. Back to the time frame, we are currently, let me see how many days outside the wedge. We've been trading outside of the wedge for 3 days, right? So I mean, we're almost halfway there compared to last time. It was 4 days and 22 hours. We're beyond halfway there. There was a lot of panic in the chat room today, and then next thing you know, market turned and there's rejection, and that was good. As far as market dominance goes, let's check on that. I haven't checked on it today yet. As far as alt dominance and BTC dominance, it's going to be a good indication of where the money's shifting to, right? Is it more into alt? Is it more into BTC, or is it more into Ether and some of these other tokens? As far as market dominance goes, now we're seeing that inverse relationship happen between alt and BTC, where BTC is peeling up, right? So our orange line is going up, alts are coming down. Alts are currently at 24.8, and we know that 24.8 used to be the all-time resistance that we only broke past a couple of weeks ago. And so if that can turn into a support level for altcoins as far as dominance goes, it's going to be good. Alts are going to uphold some value. If we do enter a BTC high volatility period where we're going to see BTC really peel off and gain dominance again, we do know there's an upcoming fork. I haven't looked into that fork much, but we will get some FA on it. Now, back to what I was highlighting. When we do see BTC get really parabolic, right, when we start seeing, based on this chart, we see altcoin dominance go down from 24.5 down to 18%, while BTC is on this rager, right? These are BTC price surges. Most of alts are going to get affected by it. A few alts are going to rally just as well. So going in the next couple of weeks, once we see this upwards rally, we should definitely keep an eye on altcoins and set some tight stops and let the runners run and cut the bleeders early to secure more BTC to be able to pick them back up at a discount. So now we're seeing that inverse correlation between alts and BTCs for a majority. It tells us that we're probably near a BTC rally. Can the market rally? Can the market really rally without a real shakeout before? If not, the shakeout might put us below key support. Does that invalidate support or not? In a sense, if it puts us below support, right? If it puts us below key support on an RSI divergence, that tells us that we're going to be in we're still going to see a rally because the RSI divergence. So we never just want to we never want to trade just based on support and resistance levels, right? We want to bring in oscillators. We want to check the momentum in the market. We want to bring in an ADX. We want to bring in DI positive, DI negative. So we use all these other tools to assess if this new low is a healthy low or if it's a bad low. So if we see this new low on an exaggerated bullish div or on a standard bullish div, or on a hidden bullish div, right, then that new low is a healthy low and the market's going to rally back up. But if we don't see it on a bullish divergence, we see some kind of bearish divergence, then it's probably time to exit that June long and open a short on a high. But it's way too soon to come to any type of conclusion that's that close, because way too soon. So if we see a new low on a bullish div, then it is a good new low, and that's why we don't ever go based on support resistance levels strictly or only. That's why we always throw in some oscillators, checking for divergences, and some of the other tools in our belt. Now, yesterday I do have some screenshots of our volume monitor, right? And as we were making these new low lows, TUSD was being sold off. So the net volume on Bitcoin, a true US dollar, was negative. What that means is that true US dollar, the hedge, what's comparable to Tether or USD, is being sold back into BTC at that low. And what that lets us know is that whoever was hedging in true USD for this downturn, for this 20% move down, right, is comfortable to get back in to BTC at those levels. And once again, you know, volume and money flow isn't always indicative of what is happening in the market, but whenever you've got enough volume shifting back and forth, it gives us a good idea that somebody else is thinking what we're thinking, as far as this is a nice time to pick it back up. All right, fam. If you guys have any more questions on BTC, I don't see any on Facebook yet. I don't see any on YouTube. Guys in Discord. Sip of coffee. What's going on, Holland? We got Holland in the house. I'm a big fan of Arjun Robin, right? Big fan of Arjun Robin, so I like Holland. I guess Netherlands. Well, since we don't have any questions on Bitcoin, BTC, or market dominance, I'm gonna go ahead and take alt requests. You guys hit me with an alt request. I'm gonna take 3 alts at a time, right? And once we get 3, I'll ask for more and we'll go in them. EOS USD on Bitfinex. Thanks for the request, Felix. All right, so you got a little bit of a downturn. We did see, as I said, divergence. Let's kind of blow up this chart. There was no bearish div on these last 2 highs, and that looks promising, right? So we saw a higher high, we see another higher high on RSI, so that is good, that's healthy. Now we don't see a bullish div other than this one, and this is what we're talking about. Sometimes a newer low is not a bad idea. Why? Because you're going to see a rally afterwards. So we do see a bullish div, and that resulted in the price moving back up. I'm going to clear this out. I want to back out. I want to get an overall trend, see if there's a reversal formation that's going on a larger time frame. So let's go ahead and zoom out a little. Let's go on a 1 day, see what moving averages are doing. Let's fib EOS. Let's see what happened the first time. EOS bounced back up after capitulation. All right, so we saw a really good capitulation wake down to that 78% fib, back to the 61 for the upwards rally. So that lets us know that EOS could essentially pull back below a 61.8 and still remain bullish, but it had made these massive gains over a longer period of time. So let's go ahead and bring up our fib to this last swing low and go up to this new swing high. And we're currently at a 50% retracement, moving averages. My kill switch on a long-term hold that's moved up parabolic is right here. Right, that's my dead zone. That's when I want to pick it back up at a 50% or 61.8. Currently there's support above that 61.8. Where is that support coming from? Not quite sure. There's not really an order block over here, but let's dive, let's go look for a formation. Is there a wedge? Is it just consolidation? What did RSI do? There was no bearish div on the 1-day RSI. Now ADX is coming down. We are currently at 24.25. That tells us that there's going to be a trend acceleration, most likely to the downside, because the trend is coming down. Back to a 4-hour. We did touch oversold twice. We did touch oversold twice on a bull div. I would consider EOS USD in a choppy territory right now. It's in chop, definitely in chop. It's in the middle of these ranges. I'd look for, if somebody's looking for a rebuy, I would look for a 61.8 and so on. Watch, turn off your VPN. If you're getting bad buffering, please turn off your VPN. I have to turn mine off to go live. So back to, alright, I covered EOS, USD. It is, it's in chop. TA is not always going to have an answer, but it'll give us a good entry on a divergence, right? So, that is my humble opinion of EOS right now. And on a shorter time frame, we did see this divergence. I think I covered this last power hour, where I said there's this shorter term divergence. It's a good time to pull back and profit take, where we're seeing these cascading lower highs on an accelerating parabolic trend, where the trend keeps accelerating. We had one support level, right, and then we had a new support level, and then a new support level. This thing just underwent somewhat of a hyper, and then a new support level, right? So we got all these trend accelerations. I don't know if you guys can see this. Can you guys see that? Oh, the trend really went parabolic, right? It started peeling off, more and more acceleration in the trend on this really linear RSI. So it's probably time to profit take. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that in a previous power hour. Back to Litecoin. Hope that was thorough enough on EOS. So Litecoin USD, I did see a wedge forming, right? But one thing we also know is that Litecoin is going to be also traded on a BTC pair. So long as BTC is consolidating, it's coming down, we're going to see Litecoin USD do the same thing. They're not competitors in any means. Litecoin doesn't get any trading volume as far as being traded against other alts, going back in the Litecoin, not on any major exchanges. So I did reference that there's a falling wedge on Litecoin USD. So upon a retest of the wedge, right now we're seeing a higher low, right? This is what we're talking about, these support levels. A higher low forming. Now, Litecoin long-term chart is fairly bullish. I did post some fib lines on here, some if a pitch fan trying to see, you know, what the next level of support resistance is. It's not looking as bullish as BTC, but it never does. Litecoin tends to rally on its own. That was just a note. It wasn't a trading idea, just something that I was looking at and I decided to note. So we could see a retest of this wedge into a continuation. If BTC starts rallying, we know that LTC BTC traded pair is going to get lifted up in value as well. That was looking really good yesterday when I checked on it. I will take a look at the chart. Man. Let's go to 1 day. And we're coming down. We do see a bearish div on a 1 day. And if you guys go through my notes, on this exact day, I think 5-1, it was a couple of Mondays ago, I posted, we're seeing a bearish divergence on BTC on a 1 day, right? And ever since then, everything's been in a downtrend, right? Very few coins have rallied. Some of the Binance coins have rallied, right? BNB rallied. A few other coins being traded on Binance did. Zen did pretty good. Strat's in a rally. So we want to find those coins that are really starting to make these upward strides. And one thing we do know about BAT, it is very likely to end up on a USD pair, right? As we know, Circle is bringing in USD pairs in the market, and as well as Bitfinex got a USD pair on there, and then Coinbase, BAT have a close connection. So if we were to put some support resistance on a long term of what's happening here on BAT, and last time we signaled BAT was right here, 4.7, 4.8. That era is when we signaled BAT for a long, right? And it was somewhat of a pennant forming there, and from there it performed. It did 119%, right? So that was a pretty good gain. High profit took a little early in here and then bought back this low, and now we're back close to it. Anyways, long-term pattern on BAT, we're seeing somewhat of a bullish pennant develop, and it's in an uptrend, right? There's a little bit of constriction here, but this is a nice formation to see. As for the downtrend itself, it's almost at an ADX trough, right? Let me go ahead. What was our workshop template? So it's almost at an ADX trough in this downtrend. So long as ADX keeps coming down, what do we know about trend at a ADX trough and ADX peak? It likes to reverse. It reversed at the peak, and it's probably going to reverse back at the trough. So long as the trough doesn't turn, it enters a new upward swing. And we're currently at that 17 level, so there's typically not much trend acceleration there. We've seen support happen here. This might be another capitulation point, maybe a double bottom forming. It is too soon to tell, right? Too soon to tell. But you know, our next support level on BAT based on a long-term chart is going to be 3,200 range. I'm gonna cover OMG and then I'll get right back to you guys on Discord. Not many in YouTube wanna chill, so let me go ahead and check OMG for everyone, and then I'll cover ADA and Lumens. So OMG on the daily, it's in that downtrend once again from that, well, I guess 424 entered that downtrend fairly early, but we did see OMG offer plenty of profit taking opportunity. Anybody that bought the wicks, I don't know what you were thinking. If you sold the wicks, good job. And I'll highlight those WEGs here once I find my drawing tool. Right, we saw these massive surges in price action. One, here's the other. Right, so these were good selling opportunities, especially on the second one when that RSI was highly divergent. But currently RSI is coming down to form a new bottom, right? It's coming down in oversold. It's not yet oversold. It's not bullish div just yet. It could be too soon to enter. It'd be too soon to buy back. I don't see a reversal formation setting up yet, but I do see what's according to Wyckoff is called a creek. Creek's an area of consolidation. So we want to see price start getting more and more bullish on OMG BTC in a sense of breaking above this downward channel. Go to 4 hour. And we do see that channel somewhat constricting. If we were to take out that swing low, set it over here. So we do see somewhat of a falling wedge. Price action's constricting. I would stay away from OMG until it does what it's supposed to do. I'm gonna check OMG USD. Very similar chart. So a lot of these tokens that aren't rallying on their own, they're following BTC's price action. We're still in a market unison. I talked about market unison last week, the week before, and I said, you know, a lot of these alts are going to be doing the same thing because the traded pairs they're being traded on are doing the same thing. I will cover Digibyte. I have to cover ADA and Lumens first, and then I will cover Matthews. I will cover Digibyte soon. We could see a 50% support there, Felix. I don't know if you guys can see Felix's chart. I'll go ahead and bring it in here. Alright, so Felix saying, hey, can we see a 50% support on EOS? Well, we possibly could, right? It's too soon. You want to see how that 50% retests. You want to see how it retests and how it performs before jumping back in. Maybe it's a good time to set a stop if it doesn't perform. So covering ADA, BTC, and then Lumens. And once again, we're back into a market unison, right? We see these RSI double tops, newer top on ADA. I did see a smaller divergence on a shorter time frame. We did see these rallies happen, but now we're seeing something I don't like seeing, right? We see this ADX come down. It looks like it wants to start rising. So ADA might enter a little bit of a longer downtrend than some of the others. Market unison. I can't say much. Just like what I've been saying about other alts, it's probably a good time to look for a shorter term divergence for a bounce. We do see this nice slow, and we're seeing what's called a failure swing in a sense. That has to be confirmed though. We're seeing, you know, price kind of making these lower lows and RSI failing to do that swing, failure to enter the next oversold zone. So we're in chop once again. It sucks not having, you know, that's why whenever we see these divergences happen, good idea to profit take. And if you go back in, go in at that stop loss, right? So we get stopped out and we can keep those profits secured. We got 3 new RSI highs, and then, sorry, 3 RSI same highs, and then we got 3 new highs over here. So that lets us know there's a bearish div. Very nice. So we've been expecting somewhat of a head and shoulders to happen on Lumen, right? And a lot of guys are like, hey, what if this happens? Well, then we're going to get a really steep retracement. But then we saw today the price somewhat start rallying back up. And it's still too soon to play that head and shoulders. But if that neckline closes, right, I'm going to go just a straight line down. And classic charting principles, we might see a new low for Lumen as long as we do see that closure at the neckline, and hopefully we don't see that. Lumen is one of the stronger coins. The reason we're seeing Lumen in a downtrend is because Lumen just got listed on Bitfinex, and Bitfinex can really, there's a lot of short selling volume on Bitfinex, and this is what happened after Lumen's got listed on Bitfinex. Right, so we have to see why something's in a downtrend, right? Did it just turn bearish? Did Lumen's just turn into a bad project? Did Lumen's just turn into a shitcoin? Well, it didn't, right? They still have the IBM partnership. IBM's still working really hard. So in a sense, we're seeing somewhat of a price suppression via short selling. So I'm still a fan of Lumen's long-term scope. I think it will rally. They do have a couple of catalysts at the end of the month. And I see Lumen's making big moves this year, and you know, fundamentally I like it. This isn't financial advice, right, or investment advice. This is my personal humble opinion of Lumen's and why I think it's in this downtrend. Now, a good idea would be to set a stop around that neckline, because if it breaks down here, there's another 20, 30, 40% downside. We don't want to. You don't want to indefinitely hodl, right? If Lumen was to take another bear turn, it could be a long time. A BTC might be better off somewhere else. All right, guys, Digibyte. So Digibyte showed a lower low, right? Back to one of the questions I was asked earlier, what if BT shows a lower low? But on a bullish divergence, or on somewhat of a divergence here. And it's actually looking pretty good on a 4-hour. It is in a trading range, right? Where we're getting these touches. It's somewhat of a slanted range. I would want to wait and see what happens here. It's too soon to say there's a bull flag. Let's go to 1 day. On a 1 day standpoint, it looks like it's doing somewhat of a bull flag. Now, why did price start pulling back? And now we can see that there's, once again, RSI divergence, and the trend is still coming down here. And it's taken to this resistance. So if Digibyte breaks upwards from this resistance, we could see it move into try and attempt a new high. But if it doesn't, then we're gonna see it come back down into the support, right? So a range trader, if somebody was trading ranges, they would essentially be, sorry, a range trader would buy here, long here, sell or short here, and then buy back here, sell or short here. It's too soon to profit take in a sense, because we're seeing this nice bullish formation. RSI isn't at a new high, it's not at an extreme. Let's go to 2 hour. Flower looks like it's forming somewhat of a pennant, so I would wait and see what happens over here, because this looks like a bullish pennant, right? We might see a breakout. We haven't seen this type of formation happen this concisely on Digibyte on any of these previous frictions with the resistance. And one thing we know, the more often a token tries to push past resistance, right, what's going to happen is it's going to want to break that resistance. Same thing, the more often it has friction with that support, it's going to want to break through. So, and this isn't like a linear resistance, more of a diagonal. I guess it is linear, right, but it's not horizontal. It's more of a diagonal one, where it's a trend line. It just needs to break that trend line. Once it breaks the trend line, an entry above the pennant would be a good long, with a stop loss below the pennant somewhere in this 474 Satoshi range. A sip of coffee. How was that for Digibyte? You like that assessment? Can you give me a like and share the video if this was a good assessment of Digibyte? Walton Chain, WTC. And the pressure is on. WTC, we're back in this downtrend. ADX approaching a trough. I personally like entering some of these on like a confirmed divergence, not because it's touching the previous low. It's got a lot of friction with this resistance, right? Let's identify some horizontal resistances here. What's happening to the lows? Are we seeing higher lows or lower lows? We got one. Seeing a steep sell-off, right? Once again, it started. There's probably a bear div right here, and exactly, I called it before it even popped up on the chart. Once again, I'm going to use this term, market unison. You guys should know what that means by now. Things are moving very similarly together. Because why? Because BTC took a hit, right? Boom, bearish div, profit take. Wait for what? Wait for the bullish div. I don't see a bullish div just yet. Yes, I agree. Accumulate oversold, right? We're not quite oversold yet on this metric. So let's go into moving averages. Why did I say we're gonna see Walton Chain essentially go on another run soon? Well, we see these moving averages start having more friction with the long-term MA, right? Last time we saw that, if we were going based on fractals, we see one break above, a retest, and then a pull off of, right? So we want to see what happens there. A good stop loss on this trade would be at this lower range, like 121. So essentially, yeah, just look for oversold. I do believe this thing's gonna want to rally soon. Once again, it's in an uptrend, and the downtrend, if we were just to analyze the downtrend, remember mana? Remember when I signaled mana very early on because it broke out of the downtrend, Lucas, and it made like 100% or so in a few days? Actually, it took like 30 days for the play to play out. Volume on Walton Chain today. $265. So we want to wait for a little bit more volume to come in before we pick it up. Just got a headline on BTC being at 8,200. I'm gonna go back to BTC real quick. Back at that 82.18, we're seeing more friction with that 50% fib. We're still above that support line. We want to see it maintain price above that support line. It's still above the previous resistance. So I'm not really sweating it. Once again, I said there will be shakeout candles. Steam and Dash, right? I know Steam was ranked pretty high on the Chinese index, and it's actually shaping up, right? So we see this somewhat of a pennant formation. Moving averages look good. They look really good on Steam. Problem is, when I was previously trading Steam, I was buying Steam back here at these lows, and I'm playing these lower ranges. I want to personally wait for it to get back down, even though it might not. Long-term perspective, what is going on with the chart, right? We're seeing possibly an incoming squeeze as this consolidation period is at an ADX low. I would wait and see what Steam does in a longer term scope of. It actually looks at a pretty good point to pick up as far as today goes. Why? Because it's above, it's respecting this support line, right? It is. A stop would be below that support line. So we could see a range trade in this area and then get up in a pennant territory. And once we get up in a pennant territory, we might get more volatile. This is a one-day chart. Steam's been trading for a while, right? So if we can break out of this pennant, we could see a new high form. Let me look for RSI divergences on a longer time frame before I get everybody wrecked on this one. One day does not show a divergence, right? Not a bearish one. Let me go in a 2 hour, 4 hour. And the 4 hour does show a bearish div where we got, I'm gonna switch these to red. Red again, right? So we got that bear div come down, going oversold, right? But then it failed to essentially show a divergence again. So as long as it stays above this support line, and getting in on an entry with this support line for a longer term pennant play is a good idea, because it's at that support. Once it breaks down from that support, that would be a good stop loss, unless it goes on a probe or a stop hunt. Guys, I'm gonna ask you all to slow down with the alt requests until I ask for more, please. Every time I look up, there's new ones. So no more alt requests until I ask for more. Yes, a divergence still valid until you see another something that's going to negate that divergence, like a reversal formation. Dash BTC looks pretty good right now. On a 4 hour time frame, we're seeing a double bottom on RSI divergence. You guys see that? Our RSI down here, and we're seeing a new lower low on a higher low RSI. And Dash has always performed well. It's been a good hedge. You know, one thing we do know that privacy coins right now, right? They got delisted off CoinCheck. So a lot of the Asian market is pulling out of these privacy coins. And that's why we see Dash in a sell-off, Monero in a sell-off. But what does that mean for privacy coins in essence? It doesn't mean that people are going to stop using them. It just means the trading volume on them is slowing down. It's tapering off, which is going to cause a sell-off. But it's not a good reason to devalue them. Why? Because whoever was using them for utility is going to still come in and buy them off like decentralized exchanges and exchanges that still offer. The fact that still being traded in the US tells you that's kind of a good thing. If Dash makes a new low, Monero makes a new low, and some of these other currently being delisted from CoinCheck and Korean exchanges, yeah, I'm likely to pick them up because that's like a FUD buy, right? We're gonna see the chart rally back up at some point for a long-term hold. I'm gonna cover rep. Rep is showing a cup formation. Too soon to call in a handle for this one. If it does start forming somewhat of a handle, that could be a really nice breakout pattern. Let me dive into RSI. We see these new highs. This one was a wick high, this one was not. So RSI still looks good. Stochastic, we do see the 3 like black crows, so we could see more of a correction come in. Fib levels, short-term fib, swing low, swing high. We could see rep try to bounce up 55. I'd put an alert there for rep and see how reactive it is to that fib level for a potential re-entry. Alright, and I put another one to the 61.8. We do know that rep hit Binance, and that's when we saw this massive spike up in price. So it could be being price suppression right now. I'm not too up to date on Augur, the actual platform, and what the case what I know what the case use is. I don't know if the users are getting more engaged. If I don't have an Augur update. So whoever requested rep, if you can give us a little update on the actual platform, catalysts and stuff, if you're in the know, feel free to drop them in. Lucas, I'm going to cover Neo and Qtum. So we saw Neo make an upwards rally. It did touch overbought, and that's not very healthy for it right now. I wanted to see Neo make some more aggressive highs, especially with news coming out of China. Now, based on what we're seeing on the chart, Neo first of all is a fake out king. This chart is going to fake you out more times than any other chart, and I'll highlight that on a longer term scope. But short term, what are we seeing on the chart right now? We do see, last thing we saw as far as a divergence, 2 touches of the extreme, was a bullish divergence, or more of an exaggerated bullish dip. This could be a shakeout right before a leg up. Back to what I was saying about Neo being a fake out king. This is what Neo does, right? It does these fake rally, comes back, pulls back down to a lower low, fakes out another rally, pulls back down, lower low, another rally, pulls back down, lower low, after capitulation, right? All these everybody that bought Neo when it was doing this, buying these tops, oh, it's going to keep going up. Guess what? No bueno. So we want to buy it when it essentially hits that lower Bollinger Band and wait for the rally to happen. So when Qtum showed some bear div, right, where it started coming down on the 4-hour time frame. When I posted the trade on Qtum, I posted a stop with it too. So we should be stopped out of this one. One thing is Qtum was at consensus and they presented, and it's a good project, right? It's a pretty good project. It entered, its devaluation period back in February when the market was coming down into the slow. I do believe Qtum is a fundamentally strong coin with a strong community, strong team. And one of our analysts has been to Qtum headquarters, so we do have a closer connection with him. I think we should come into a rally. What Qtum does is it's also another finicky, tricky token where it does like to capitulate before a true rally. So we do see one really steep swing low. Let's fib it. Let's not talk mumbo jumbo. Let's put some numbers on this chart, right? So it's holding at that 61.8 fib. You want to see how reactive it is up here. You want to see if it does double bottom indeed on a divergence. It is showing some failure swing characteristics. We do see stochastic wanting to go back up. On a 1-day chart, downtrend's at 1880x. So I think whenever BTC does make that head turn and we enter a rally, we should see a lot of the other coins start rallying as well. GNT. Gonna be the last altcoin I take, and it's gonna be Golan. We do see a massive bear div here, right? We see higher high, lower high on a 1-day. Pop quiz, what's this called? It's moving along with everything else. What's this called, right? Market unison, right? Doing the same thing as other alts. We know what it's doing. It's moving along with the market. On a 4-hour time frame, we still haven't had any touches of oversold. We actually just had our first touch of oversold. So I would wait and see what GNT does here. If we do get a bullish div, it might be another time for a good entry. One thing we see a lot of these moving averages, there was a couple of coins that were breaking up, right? And it's going to be some of the stronger ones that we saw, like Steam had them looking good, WTC had them looking good, where our shorter terms were above our longer terms, and that tells us that momentum is to the upside. Here momentum is to the downside. And then GNT is like one of those tokens like CIS, right, where it's gonna essentially form a capitulation point and then go up for a rally. Same thing we saw with CIS. That's what this chart reminds me of, right? Steep sell-off, boom, moving back up. CIS is looking mighty bullish as well. So on that note, guys, thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed our analysis, click like, whatever platform you're watching on, Facebook, YouTube, and if you guys have more questions, hop in on Discord. I'll be there. And share the video, right? You want to update your friends, your family, let them know what's going on in the market, our opinion of it. Feel free to share and subscribe. Thank you, Dingo Dimes. Thanks, Elwaj, Esther, everybody on Facebook, YouTube. Green, merci beaucoup. And yeah, guys, I'll see you guys next time.